What we're going to do here is have a look at the designing algorithm. We're going to have a go at creating our solution for Visual Studio for making our BMI calculator. So initially, you'll see here that I've created the algorithm for our BMI calculator. Initially, we have to get the height and the mass, and you'll see that the repeat lines up with the until, because we're going to keep doing everything in this loop until the user enters in a value of 0 for the height or 0 for the mass. So within this loop, within the repeat until, you can see we're doing the calculation for BMI. So we're taking mass divided by height squared. So that little symbol there is generally used in computers for squared. You could do height times height in this little bracket section as well. You can see we've then got our caseware, and remember, for each starting keyword we have an ending keyword. So caseware starts here and ends here, and what we're doing is testing the value of BMI, and if the BMI is less than 18.5, then we're getting a variable called category and making that equal to underweight. If it's less than 25, we've got category is normal weight. If it's less than 30, the category is overweight, and otherwise the category is becoming obese. The way the caseware works is it goes down until it finds one it matches. So if you're in this 18.5 category, then you're going to get underweight, and that's going to exclude you from entering into these other values that are available here. Then after our case, we're printing our response back to the user. So we're going to say the BMI is, and then we're going to insert the variable value BMI, which is in the category, and then we'll insert the category variable. And then we're going to get the next height and mass, and we're going to test that against our loop condition. And so long as they're not equal to 0 and not equal to 0 for the mass and the height, then we're going to repeat that loop. And so that's our algorithm. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that algorithm and I'm going to copy the text from it, and we're going to, copy the instructions, but we're going to convert that into code in C#. So let's jump across to Visual Studio. Here's our empty Visual Studio application, our empty window. We're going to start a new solution. So if we go to New and choose New Project, and then what we're going to need to do is create our BMI project. So I'm just going to leave it called Console App BMI as the name for my project and say OK. Once we've done that, we're going to jump in, say hi to some boys in the background. Once we've done that, we're going to go to our main procedure and we're going to start writing the code to actually create our application. So the first thing we need to do is get the value for our height and get the value for our weight. So to do that, we're going to ask the user to enter them. So we'll go to console.write, and we're going to write, please enter your height. And we're going to put a colon, and then we're just going to leave a space. And remember, we finish our code with a semicolon. Now what we need to actually do is get that value and put it into a variable. So we're going to create a double. Remember, a double is an integer value, and we're going to call it something simple as height. And we're going to say the double height, and remembering that we have to following the naming rules for our variable. So our double height is going to be equal to the console dot readline, and close that off. We can check, that's a string, so remember we have to convert those to double. So we simply go convert to double, put that inside brackets, and make sure we've got our capitals in the right place. So our double height is going to be equal to the value from the read line from the read line of the console converted to a double, and that's going to go into our variable for height. Now, in order to make it easy for ourselves, remember, copy and paste is your friend. We want to not only get the height, but we also want to get the weight. So we're just going to simply copy and paste that line, and then we're going to change our variable to weight, and once again we're going to read the value from our line. And so that's now going to prompt the user to enter in the height and the weight. So let's run that by pressing F5, and we should get the two prompts, so we're testing as we go. Enter our weight, and we can enter in a value for our weight, enter in our height, and so far that's working. So we've got the two values. Now what we need to do is our calculation. So we're going to create a variable called BMI, and that's going to become equal to the weight variable divided by the height, and I'm just going to go the height times the height, and you've got to watch your spelling, height times the height. And once again, we need to make sure we finish that line with a semicolon. So our BMI is now going to be put into that value. Now we need to write that back to the user. So we can use our console write line command, and we might just write an empty line first of all, just to pretty things up a bit, and then console dot write line, and let's say the BMI is calculated to be, and you'll notice that I haven't put that in quotes, so I need to go back and make sure I'm including the string in quotes, and then I want to add to the end the value from the BMI, and then finish that with a semicolon. Now we want the program to pause for the user to be able to read that, so we're just going to add a console read line to the end of that. And so now what we should have is that the user is going to be prompted to enter their height, and that value is going to go into a variable called height. The user is going to be prompted to enter their weight, and that value will go into a variable called weight. The BMI will be calculated, and then the user will receive a message back saying that the BMI has been calculated to be whatever the variable is, and then it will just sit there waiting for us to press enter. So let's start that. We can enter in our height 1.86, and we can enter in our weight 80, and see that the BMI has been calculated to be 23.124, and so there we know that our procedure works. Now it's waiting for me to press enter, so I press enter and the process works. Now at the moment this has got no error checking in it, so at the moment this line here could fail. Remember that when we got variables in the past, because we're asking the user to enter in a value, they could enter in their name at this point, and this conversion here would crash. So in order to improve this program, we'd need to make sure that we actually go through and not only get the variable, but make sure it is a value that could be converted to a double before that line takes place. And now we've done that in a previous program, so I'm going to leave that to you to actually have a go at. The other thing that we haven't done at the moment is worked out which category the BMI puts them in. So what we would need to do at this point is do an if statement, and we'd have a series of if statements saying that if the BMI is less than 18.5, then that's going to mean the category is underweight, and so we'd write something to the user saying that that's put you into the underweight category. So that's the two things I'd like you to do. Have a go at making sure that these are doubles, so are values that are entered in as numbers, and at this stage use an if statement to write another line out to the user so that if they're less than 18.5 they get the message that they're underweight. Otherwise, work out which category they fall into and put the relevant if statements in here for that. Okay, so have a go at that and we'll see what happens with you.